All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 15th meeting of the Walpole Select Board. With the hour being after 6 p.m., we'll get started. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item of business here is, and Mark Gallivan will be joining us shortly, so we'll roll through a couple of business items here until he joins us. So our first item of business under appointments is introduction and vote to ratify the appointment of Lauren Gordon as Recreation Director. Is Lauren here? Yeah, come on up, Lauren.
So as Lauren makes her way up, just a couple words here. As you know, this is part of the charter that we have to affirm my decision to appoint Lauren as a rec director. Lauren comes really highly recommended. She's been in the rec department about almost 3 weeks now. Yeah, she's doing a great job over there. She picked a heck of a time to start with the department in the full summer swing, but she's got some great staff people over there, and everybody's working real hard. And I know Lauren's jumped right into it. So with that, if you don't mind, I'll hand it over to Lauren, let her talk about herself a little bit, give her a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah, that'd be great, Lauren. Just a little introduction, and then if the board members have any questions, we can go from there.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Lauren Gordon. Prior to coming to Walpole, I spent the last 12 years of my career working for Mass Audubon. I was the regional director overseeing all of the Metro South properties, which included the Norman Smith Environmental Education Center in Quincy, Blue Hills Trailside Museum in Milton, Museum of American Bird Art and Maker Space in Canton, Moose Hill Wildlife Sanctuary in Sharon, and Stony Brook Wildlife Sanctuary in Norfolk. So throughout that, I did the day-to-day and strategic operations and community engagement for all 5 of those sites, including summer camps, school programs, ran the animal care for Trailside. Took some time off for the summer because I had a family illness, and was really excited to see the Walpole job come up, and I'm super excited to be here because I really love doing community engagement and working within a community, which was something that I was kind of spread across an entire region, and really excited to be working with the team here, really focusing our efforts on how we can better serve Walpole and the families in the community. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Glenn?
No questions, but hey, nice to see you again. Lauren, I was sat in on the interview with Lauren and was very impressed with, of course, your resume speaks for itself, but just your enthusiasm for the position, which is exactly what we're looking for. So I appreciate the fact that it wasn't a particularly hard decision from my end, and so welcome.
Anybody else, Jim?
I also sat in on the interviews and appreciated getting to meet you earlier, and I'm very happy to have you here in Walpole, Lauren. I think your background is very different from some of the other directors we've had, and I'm going to be real interested to see how you bring that background into this job. And you know, this town has so many opportunities that I think your background is suited for, that it's really exciting to have you on board. So really glad to have you here. Thank you.
Yep, and I would just say congratulations and welcome. Piggyback on what was said is that your resume was very impressive, all of your knowledge and experiences. I think the Walpole Rec program, the opportunities are endless, so I'm really excited to see the energy that you're going to bring into that department.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Walpole's recreation program is very robust compared to a lot of towns, and it's a source of pride for the community. So I'm very glad to have you. Without any further comment, I'd hear a motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion to ratify the appointment of Lauren Gordon as Recreation Director.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 400. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, so next on the agenda, we're going to hold off on the next item for just a couple minutes. It's the discussion on the food pantry, and I know some folks had come down for that. Mark Gallivan is on his way now, and he wanted to be a part of that discussion, so we'll just hold off for about 5 minutes until Mark arrives. We will move on to the first item under new business, which is a vote for the request of Walpole Veteran Services Committee to expand the Hometown Hero Banner Program. And we have, Ian, come up.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here.
Happy to be back here in front of you guys. So yeah, on behalf of the Walpole Veteran Service Committee, we wanted to formally request the use of the lampposts at all three commons in the center of town, as well as the 4 lampposts located at Memorial Pond for the Hometown Hero Banner Program. The committee and I do believe that the addition of the lampposts at Memorial Pond, which is already a place of quiet reflection and remembrance, will be a fitting and respectful location to honor the veterans of Walpole.
Great. Great. Any further comments or questions from the board? Glenn?
To say this is, for me, an easy decision. I guess my question is, do you have a sort of backlog, and do you have immediate use for putting the banners up at Memorial Pond, or just for future as an option?
It's more to give it as an option. Right now, we have a backlog,
Yeah.
but we do see the backlog dwindling, like getting smaller and smaller. So I think in future years, 5 years from now, we probably will get to pick and choose where we want to put the
Yeah.
banners. It's not going to be filling up the entire common with.
No, it looks amazing as it is, and expanded will continue to look amazing, so I support it for sure.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah, Jim?
Yeah, I support it as well, and thank you for bringing it to us. But I also just wanted to take a moment to thank you for the great work you've been doing as our Veterans Director. Nothing but good things I hear about what you're doing both here and in Medfield, so really well done.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd echo Jim's comments. Great job so far, so,
Thank you.
yeah. No further comment, I would take a motion.
Yeah, sure. Make a motion to approve the request of the Walpole Veterans Service Committee to expand the Hometown Hero Banner program to all three commons, as well as the flagpoles on the Memorial Pond Bridge.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 400, approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ian.
The next item here under new business is a discussion and vote on the flag policy, on adding the flag policy to the Select Board of Policies and Procedures. Jim, you want to?
Yeah, sure. This is something we've talked about over the last few years. Recently came up with an issue in another community in Massachusetts. I've worked closely with KP Law Attorney Rich and Attorney Goldberg on this one. We just wanted to basically get something in the books. If we had ever had any type of requests that were kind of out of the norm, gave us some guidelines as to what we can and should fly. Again, this will be printed in your policies and procedures, and requesting favorable approval on that. I know you folks have had this for a couple of weeks now, and I think I was able to answer some of the questions that came up. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah,
You may have.
I didn't have any further comment on it. Anybody from the board?
I just have a quick question. So I know it said that the flags go up in East Walpole and downtown on Flag Day, Memorial Day, July 4th, and Veterans Day, which makes sense. I assume, I don't know if you know the answer, it's okay if you don't, but do they go up in advance of Memorial Day and stay up until after July 4th and come down and then go up again? Or are they just, or do they come down in the winter maybe, or do you happen to know?
From what I recall, they go up and they stay up, as you mentioned, but then they come back down.
In the summer, and then up again in
Yeah.
like November, and then
Yeah.
maybe they come down in the winter?
They come down in the winter, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, all right, I was just curious. Thanks.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I'd hear a motion.
I can make a motion to add the flag policy to the Select Board Policies and Procedures.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 400, it's approved. We have a vote to award bid contract 2025-11 water main replacement, Diamond Street, South Street to PJ Hayes.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Recommend favorable action on contract number 25-11 for water main replacement to PJ Hayes. Obviously, we have a history working with PJ. He submitted the low bid on this one. 6 total bids were received. PJ was the low bidder by about $3,000, so it was very close. Actually, all the bids were very close. The top 4 were within about $27,000, so very close. The water department did a great job on this one, working with the AP associates, and just like to thank them for their work. So recommend favorable action.
Great. Any further comments or questions from the board?
It's necessary and important.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to award bid contract 2025-11 to PG Hayes, Inc.
And I'll second that.
PJ Hayes.
Yes.
Yes. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 400, it's approved. We have a vote request for the DPW director to release $76,750 from the perpetual care funds for the completion of a couple projects and pieces of equipment. Jim, I know that was another memo that was written to the board.
Sure, this was at the request of DPW Director Mattson, just fill in some equipment that Jim Thomas and his team need in the Parks and Cemetery departments. $33,000 for a Kubota tractor, $16,500 for a trailer, and $5,200 for a lowering device for the burials. And I would note that there's plenty of money in the various perpetual care accounts. They total almost about $700,000 total, so there's plenty of money there.
Great. Any questions or comments from the board for Jim? If there's none, ready to hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve the request of DPW Director to release $76,750 from the perpetual care funds for the completion of the columbarium project and to purchase several pieces of equipment as outlined in the memo dated July 8th, 2025, for use in the operation and maintenance of the cemeteries.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500. And lastly, we have a request of the IT Director Donovan to use $56,000 for the PEG Fund for infrastructure improvements.
So sure. Mike submitted this request last week for $35,000 to upgrade the aging main storage unit for the IT department to cover all of the town resources. Police department, $10,000 for some of the aging laptops and PCs. Hard to believe we've been in there well over the 5 years that were suggested for the life expectancy on some of these PCs. Same for the fire department, $11,000 there for a total of $56,000. And we have a few $100,000 in that account, so that account's healthy.
Any questions or comments from the board? Being there is none, a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request of IT Director Donovan to use $56,000 from the PEG Fund for infrastructure improvements in Walpole.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500. Okay. The last one under new business is a vote to appoint treasurer collector Lisa Sinkus as the parking clerk. Any questions or comments from the board on that?
No. I'll make a motion to appoint Treasurer Collector Lisa Sinkus as the parking clerk.
Second.
So, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500. Okay. So, Mark is here, and we will now go to the appointments. I know that originally we had it at 6:05, the discussion on the food pantry location request. So I appreciate everybody hanging on here for a couple minutes while we work through some agenda items. Bill, if you could come up to the mic, please. So the select board, a bit of background before we ask Bill to jump in here. You know, the select board has been talking with the food pantry for many months about specifically a new location, possibly using town land. Out of obviously a number of challenges that the food pantry has faced over the last 4 or 5 years, not least of which is the critical need for our community, folks not just here in Walpole, but in the surrounding towns. And so we have worked with the food pantry quite a bit on a number of issues. As I say, we're here tonight to talk about the parcel of land that the food pantry is interested in possibly constructing a new building. Bill had been talking with Jim O'Neill, who was the previous chair, over the last year or so on how to best, look into that and what would be needed in order to kind of effectuate that change. And so what we had asked Bill to do is to put together a formal proposal of sorts, answering a couple of questions, what the project is going to be, a drawing and some engineering about how large it's going to be, where it's going to be situated, along with a little bit of the process that it would take for the town to then sell that land and move forward, should we deem it, a good idea, a feasible idea, I should say. So Bill, with that, a little bit of preface, if you could maybe give us, 5 minutes or so, bring us up to speed on that proposal. Certainly, everyone here on the board has read it. right? And we're familiar with the contents, but we wanted to be able to have this discussion in the meeting setting and on TV for everybody to understand what your proposal is. And then at that point, we can open it up to the board for additional discussion or questions on the proposal.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting us. First of all, I'd like to ask if we could, some of our members of the board are here, and a couple were away on vacation out of town, but if they could just introduce themselves
Please, that'd be
to you
great.
folks. So, Joe?
So hi, I'm Joe Weinacht, I'm the pantry manager, and I'm on the board of directors.
Joe?
Joe?
Hi, my name is Joe Sawyer. I'm a volunteer for the food pantry and the Walpole resident.
Joe?
I'm Bill Treagle. I'm on the board of directors for the food pantry.
Barbara Beach, board member. Charlene Furlan, board member, and coordinating with the seniors in town.
Pete Lane, board member and treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, just, I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but I thought I was going to have 5 to 10 minutes, so I
Yes.
cut it down to 10 minutes, so.
That is fine,
Okay.
absolutely, Bill, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to shortchange you your
I'm
5
just-
minutes, go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I just have an introductory statement.
Sure.
And then I'll kind of get into the way I would think this would go.
Okay.
So,
Great.
we're here to request and obtain the Select Board and the Town Administrator's support to sell a parcel of town-owned land at 1385 Washington Street to the Walpole Community Food Pantry. Once we are convinced of that support and the Select Board is convinced it's the best interest of the residents of the town, we will ask that the Select Board sponsor a warrant article and facilitate the cooperative development of an RFP for the fall 2025 town meeting. Prior to obtaining that support, we hope to address all concerns that have previously been raised by the town or any questions that may arise from tonight's discussion. From 1993, when the pantry first opened at the Plimpton School, until 2020, when 1303 Washington Street was deemed unsuitable to accommodate the volume or provide the conditions necessary to store or distribute product with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the town has provided a home for the pantry. In February 2020, with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the town designated the Walpole Community Food Pantry as an essential service. In May 2020, we notified the town that our distribution model was unsustainable. The town agreed. With the town's help, we searched for an existing building. A suitable location could not be found. The town suggested we speak with the town assessor to see if there were any town-owned land that might be suitable. Since that time, the pantry has been working with the town to try to find a town-owned site for a new pantry. We tried to lease land, we tried to license land, and neither came to fruition. In the summer of '24, the town suggested an outright sale of town-owned land at 1385 Washington Street to the pantry. In August 2024, the town provided us with a suggested outline of requirements to move the project forward. Immediately in August 2024, the pantry requested that our engineering firm, Legacy Engineering, and our law firm, Bowditch & Dewey, redirect their attention to fulfill the provided requirements of the land acquisition. As reflected in our correspondence to you on April 25th, 2025, a significant portion of the suggested requirements have been fulfilled. Any remaining issues will require the cooperation of the town. As an immediate consideration, we request that the Select Board votes to authorize the town administrator to sign the A&R application form that has been provided. Okay, my suggestion on how I thought it'd be best to present this is my first paragraph here. I'll do my best to address comments, concerns, and questions that have been posted by Select Board members. I'll try to keep it to my remaining 8 minutes. I've identified 5 concerns that I would like to address. I invite you to interrupt me at any point for clarification purposes. As a matter of fact, it might be best if we pause after each of the 5 concerns so members of the Select Board can ask follow-up questions. However, it would be much appreciated if the time used in answering your questions could be reclaimed so as not to exceed my time allocation. Additionally, any supporting documents in my presentation will be provided at your request. Or, if you have any questions that I have not addressed, please feel free to ask them at the end of the presentation. I'll stay all night if necessary. Okay, question number 1. It was stated to us that generally the town does not get involved with an organization that, to their own admission, is running a deficit. The response to that, the pantry first began running a deficit in October 2020, when, out of necessity as a designated essential service for the town, we began leasing space at 24 Walpole Park South, Unit 2. This was the first time that a physical pantry was not supported by the town. We also were required to provide a delivery system, boxes, plastic bags, and paper bags. Collectively, this added approximately $7,000 to $7,500 a month to our expenses. These expenses would be significantly reduced if we were to offer a pantry in which people could shop using reusable boxes and bags. My question is, at this point, does anyone on the select board or Jim, do you have any questions about that? That seemed to be a concern.
Any questions? Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. And Bill, you know I'm supportive of the plan. So building a building and moving into one that's even bigger, you're going to have increased monthly costs. What's your intention? Are you hoping to raise enough funds to build the building and cover the first few years, or what's your thinking on how do you cover the increase in cost for the obviously bigger facility?
So we've met with Walpole Cooperative Bank, and they did send, and I forwarded, a letter of support, and they couldn't commit unless we have a specific site. You know, they said they'll work with us, they'll give us a reduced rate on the mortgage, they'd like to help us raise money, they'd like to make a donation. I've talked to a couple other, I won't mention names, a couple other people in the town that said they'd like to contribute to this also. So I guess the goal is to raise all the money so we don't have a mortgage. If we run short of that, we would get a mortgage from Walpole Co-op. And as I'll get into later, the model that we're looking at is having of the 10,000 square foot building, 2,000 square feet of what we call, people can drop off donations and we can resell them. So I've talked to some neighboring people that do that, and we believe we can raise about $10,000 to $12,000 a month. So that would be enough to cover at least $1 million of a mortgage.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jim?
Yeah, so related to that, so the deficit that you're running right now, you mentioned the boxes and the bags and all that. What's the actual size of the deficit that you're running?
It's about $7,000 to $7,500 a month.
And so what are you doing to close that deficit? And how long can you survive without closing that deficit?
Well, we're running a golf tournament September 29th. I take this time to pitch that. It's at Walpole Country Club. We just got a notice today from Walpole Co-op that they're going to be the sponsor of the golf tournament. They're giving us $25,000. So our efforts are going to be based on, so let me go back. We used to get grants, so we've received over $500,000 worth of grants, but grants are typically not for operating expenses, so they're for equipment. So our assets have risen with trucks and vans and staging and pallets, but that doesn't help us pay for our operating expenses. So the plan is to increase our income. We've cut back. We've started cutting back on some of the expenses, but we're really down to the bare bones. The Pantry Board voted, I believe it was in May, to no longer provide essential non-food items. So we used to purchase paper towels and toilet paper from Greater Boston Food Bank. That was an expense of about $1,000 a month. So we've relied on schools, donation drives. Different schools have stepped up, and we try to focus on these essential non-food items because they're costly.
Okay. So as you know, I'm very supportive of what you're trying to do here and would like to see you find a location and build a new site and introduce the model that you're talking about. So I'm all in on good on that.
Okay.
My fear here is that we're talking about a lot of money to raise. we're talking about a lot of money to operate. And we're probably also talking about a fair amount of time to raise the money, build the building, all those things. I don't know how many years that might be, but it might be many years.
2 to 3 are our estimates.
Yeah. And
That's what I said 2 years ago.
Yeah, and so the question back to today's operating environment and your ability to actually stay in business while you're raising the money and building the building. So how confident are you that you can actually do that if it takes a couple of years to raise the money, let's say?
Yeah, we have enough cash to, at the current rate, so I'm not including the Walpole golf tournament, but what we've been doing, we have enough for about 2.5 years. So if we can increase the revenues coming in, we can go longer.
Okay.
And to address your issue, how confident am I? I'm always confident that we can raise the money. I'm not guaranteeing that we'd raise the money, but as we've suggested before, we'd be willing to put in, if you go along with this proposal, would put in there that there'll be no transfer until you're satisfied with the amount of money that we've raised.
Right. Yeah, that's one of our conditions, so
Yeah.
glad to hear that you're supportive of that. In terms of the 10,000 square foot building and the operating model that you're putting in place, which is the shopper model, as
Yeah.
you've explained to me on several occasions, what are the operating costs related to the new building, the new model on an annual basis? How much money are you going to have in order to stay in business when the building gets built?
I don't have the exact numbers. What we would hope to do is have the 2,000 square foot, so we'd be generating income from the donation area. Hopefully our mortgage isn't more than $1 million, so we're planning on the entire, it's going to cost somewhere between $4 and $5 million. So we're hoping to raise $5 million, but if we raise between 3 and 4, we're confident that we could cover our expenses. So a lot of this $7,000 would be reduced to half, because we wouldn't have to be giving out boxes. We just paid $6,300 for about a 3-month supply of boxes. They're almost $2 a piece. And we have people bringing them back so we can reuse them. Plastic bags, paper bags, that all comes to $3,000-4,000 a month. So we wouldn't have to do that if we had a pantry where people shop. They'd come in with reusable bags and they'd do their shopping and then leave. It would also cut back on our volunteer hours. So we have about 65 volunteers now, and they're mostly my age, maybe a few years younger, a few years older. And it takes us a long time to distribute the way we're distributing. I don't want to get into the weeds here, but we've done an analysis, and the boxes, so we give out what we call a set. It's a box of shelf-stable food. It's a bag of protein, and a plastic bag of protein, and a paper bag with typically milk, eggs, yogurt, and cheese. And then we put in probably 6 or 7 produce items. To put together a set takes approximately 16 minutes. So we have different crews doing this. We've gone to a model where people can shop, and we tried this at Diamond Pond and the Ponce View, a pilot about 4 years ago, where people actually order just what they want. For us to pick those orders and get together a set, it takes 32 minutes for one set. So if we go to a shopping model where people come in and pick out what they want, there are many benefits to that. First of all, the dignity of the person that's going shopping. Secondly, with savings with not as many bags and boxes. I've estimated that the time to put together, so we would open, say, 3 days a week for 3 hours, the volunteer hours would be cut in half. Plus the volunteers would be working indoors rather than out in the heat or in the snow. So for safety reasons, it would be much better for people to have a pantry.
So the reason I'm asking all these questions, starting with the deficit in the current model and then what is it to operate in the new model, is because one of the things, and you've put this in your proposal, is that we limit the use of the land to a food pantry
Correct.
distribution center, which is what we would want to do, because we don't want to, because we'll have to go through the public bidding process, we don't want to have someone else come in and bid for the land for some other use. We want a designated use. And the problem, of course, with that is if we convey the property to you and then you're not able to sustain the food pantry, but we've got deed restrictions on the land that it must be a food pantry, it now becomes more difficult to dispose of the property from your perspective. So that's one of the worries that's in my mind, and why I really want to hear a lot about the fundraising, how you're going to create a sustainable operating model on the site, so that we don't end up in a situation where we've got a building sitting on what used to be town-owned land that isn't usable for anything other than a food pantry, and we can't find anywhere else to run a food pantry.
Right.
So I think you can see where my concern would be in our effort to focus this and get it so that we actually land a food pantry here. We're also taking on a lot of risk in terms of, the operate model, and knowing that you're currently running a deficit, that's amplified, at least in my mind.
Well, I think the deficit, and this is all going to come back to the amount of money we raise, and if you're satisfied that we raised enough. So if we can raise $5 million and there's no mortgage, I don't think you'd have a concern that we're going to go out of business.
But I guess what I would want you to think about, and I know we're still in the early part of this discussion, but I'd like to see an operating budget for the new building.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it however you want, with a mortgage, without a mortgage, whatever, but you're going to have certain costs that go with this regardless of the mortgage. You've got the heat, light, and power part of it, you got the people part of it, you've got the inventory part of it, you got the maintenance part of it, you got insurance, you got this, you got that, you got that. There's a lot of things, right? And so I want to make sure that we understand fully what the operate costs are going to be, and get really comfortable that you're going to be able to raise that money on a sustainable basis to keep the pantry in business.
I think what may help is if I do a comparison to our operating budget now to what it will be then.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the items that you mentioned, we're incurring those costs now, and they may not be as much. Insurance, I know we pay $1,808 a year for just our property. It's required. And it may be more because this is a larger building. We're going from 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. So if I do it side by side, where this is what we're paying now, I'm pretty confident that if we were to raise $5 million, our balance sheet would look better with the new building than it would continuing where we are.
My concern is that, for sure, but then there's the ongoing costs. So 25 years from now, you're still able to raise the whatever, I don't know what the number is, but whatever it is, to make sure that you're able to stay in
We do
business.
get great support from the residents. That's been ongoing, so I wouldn't see any reason why that would not be available. Well, I personally have not done a great job of promoting the pantry. If you ask 100 people from Walpole Food Pantry, they don't know where it is. They don't know how many people we feed.
Right.
So I actually met with a board member from Greater Boston Food Bank yesterday, and she's going to help us with promoting, first of all, the golf tournament, and then she's going to help us with other promotions. So we've been lacking with getting the word out there and letting people know what we do. And I'm confident that, once we do that, we'll be able to raise more money through donations.
Okay, that's my questions for now, but you can see that whole deficit question and the funding the operate, this is going to be a big part of this decision. So I'm going to need you to put some real shoulder to the wheel on that and show us.
I'll put together something
Okay.
for the select board.
That'd be great.
Like I said, if it's all right with you, we'll have a comparison between now and then.
Right,
And we can work through that.
great, thank you. Thanks,
Okay,
Ben.
thanks.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Number two?
Number two, why do we need a new pantry? What you're doing now seems to be going pretty well. The Walpole, and I'm going to cut this short because I think I've addressed a few of these things. Walpole Community Food Pantry feeds more than 300 families from Walpole every month, mostly multiple times. That's 570 children, 380 adults, and 129 seniors. Our numbers continue to increase, and expectations are that this trend will continue for at least the next 3 years. I'm saying 3 years because some of the government benefits are being cut back, and that's not going to fully kick in 2028. So our numbers aren't going to be going down. Although our current distribution model has allowed us to provide food to our community through the pandemic, inflation, and a continuing rise in client registrations, it is costly and inefficient. For a long-term solution, we need a facility where clients can shop, where primarily clients come to us, and a facility that will generate income. Goes on to the 2,000 square feet and explaining that. Do you have any questions about that? I think we addressed
I don't
some
think
of
so,
it.
yeah.
You okay?
Keep going.
Okay, number 3, town concern was stated as follows. Given the challenges outlined in the Commissioner's response, the fact that the site is located in the town's aquifer area of Zone 1 and 2, and the likely requirement that the town would need to separate the single parcel where the DPW town forest is located into 2 separate parcels in order to allow the Walpole Community Food Pantry to construct a building, this request is not in the best interest of the town of Walpole, end quote. Answer to that, and this is, I'm not an engineer and I'm not an attorney, but I'm doing my best to go through talking to our attorney and engineer. This is the site that the town suggested we pursue as a site for a new pantry. Regarding the challenges outlined in the Commissioner's report, included in Legacy Engineering's assessment of the site, in review they stated, quote, "This set of needed permits is fairly typical for a non-residential project in Walpole, and also for many residential projects in Walpole. When asked if our engineer knew of any legitimate reason why the town would not want to separate the land, his response was, quote, no, unquote. Admittedly, neither I nor any members of the Pantry Board are familiar with the land acquisition or building permitting process. We will defer to the Select Board as they are much more familiar with this process. However, it does appear that the Building Commissioner's assessment is of the entire 26.14 acre site. That contains the DPW. Our engineer, Legacy Engineering, provided an assessment of the 4.78 acre site that we have proposed purchasing. In our discussion with Legacy Engineering regarding whether to separate a parcel or to be part of a larger parcel, and in preparing an A&R for the separation of the smaller 4.7 acre parcel, advised us that, quote, it really doesn't matter whether we are taking the entire site into consideration. The area where the work will occur is what matters the most. Other areas of the larger 26-acre site may contain different features, including floodplains, wetlands, zones, etc. But if we are not working in those areas, it does not impact your project. Additionally, they stated, my experience is that you're either in Zone 1 or you're not. Your site is not. The town thought it was reasonable to put the DPW yard the same distance away from the wellhead. Not sure why a food pantry would be viewed any differently. Clearly, a far better use in proximity to a Zone 1. A more detailed assessment of the site was provided. Also, an A&R, after consultation with the town engineer, did separate the site. We've already provided the draft A&R. We would appreciate the opportunity to have Legacy Engineering discuss this matter further with the town and come to an amicable resolution, if that's okay with you.
Any other comments or questions from the board on that? Yeah, Jim.
So can we talk a little bit about the A&R process and what would have to happen? I know that they've submitted a plan to us that says, here's the parcel, here's the 26-acre parcel, here's the 4 or 5 acre piece they want to carve out, and they've submitted what I think is an A&R request form.
Correct.
What's the process that we would follow with actually separating that chunk out of the 26-acre site?
So I have the building commissioner here, but I'll kind of start, Jim, if you could piggyback on. So what we would need to do, if the select board directs me, we would need to submit an A&R plan, the town would need to, because it still is the town's property, to the planning board to get subdivided into separate parcels there. Because that all 26 acres is part of the town forest, the DPW, that's all on one parcel there. So it would need to go to the planning board to get carved out. Those 7 acres on the Washington Street side would be separate then, so it would be its own parcel number. Jim, did I miss anything on that?
No, that's perfect. And when you're doing an A&R, what you got to watch for is, if you're airing off land, I believe Bill said 4.8 acres, you have to also look at, if you're chopping that piece of land off, is the land that you're leaving there still conforming? You can't create a new non-conformity and muddy the title of that parcel. So just because the A&R plan says it's 4.8 acres and it works there, you have to make sure the DPW yard is protected, and the DPW yard is in the Area 1 or Zone 1, Area 1 recharge. There is a lot of wetlands there, so you have to calculate out for building coverage, lot coverage, and uplands for wet area compared to buildable area. As long as you make that land conforming and keep it conforming, then you could A&R off something, but you'd have to make sure that both parcels meet zoning.
And there's something to do with impervious soil, right, Jim?
Yeah, so we have a thing that if you're in, because we have a lot of wetlands and FEMA wetlands on the DPW right-hand side, that's going to be wetlands that you cannot build on, and you need at least 60% of a lot that does not consider wetlands that you need to be a buildable lot. So if we chop off too much land, that reduces that below to 60%. Now we've created a muddy title. I couldn't give you a permit even if they had a new A&R, because they've destroyed one set of land to make the other work, and vice versa. You can't destroy a new parcel to make the old parcel work. So you have to balance both off as you separate them.
Okay.
And have we already looked at this a little bit closely to see, are we going to have major issues of nonconformity, or?
I have just done a
Really
kinda
investigated.
quick glance at it. Like, again, someone like Lakes Engineering, Carball, if they'd be a lot smarter than me on that. I'm more professional on that with their stamps. But looking at it roughly, it is the DPW yard does cover a lot of the acreage over there. Again, if we have a 26.14, I believe, acreage over there, 60% is roughly around 15 acres, because give or take, and about 6 to 7 acres of our DPW yard at the moment is wetlands, so that would be taken off the top. And then we also have to look at 60%, if they take 5 acres off that, that could drop us below that mark and would make our DPW yard non-conforming, which is not allowed. So you got to take both lots into account.
So to answer your question, back in February 2024, Jim did look at this, and we had a chance to go over the information that was provided. That's the specific, I believe Bill referenced that in his response, the concerns he outlined there.
So if I could continue, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
go ahead.
So it seems to me as though that's maybe the number one question we have to answer, right? Because if the answer to that is we can't A&R the parcel, then the whole rest of the discussion is rendered moot. So where do we think we are in terms of, is it even possible to A&R what Bill and his team are asking us to do?
I can say that,
Well, I think it's really a question for the town, Bill.
okay,
I know your engineers told you some things, but
we did do an A&R, Dan did, and he worked with the town engineer to develop it. So if you have any questions for Dan, he can be available.
So on our end, if the select board directs me to go out and find this, we'll need to identify some funding for it. If this is something you want to pursue, because right now I don't have any funds designated to specifically focus on this particular A&R. And I understand, I think, Jim, what you're saying, that's great that their consultant may have said one thing. If this is what the board wants to pursue, we're going to have to identify the funds to go ahead and hire someone and make it happen.
so one of the things that we have said all the way along is that the food pantry would cover all costs, right? So I'm not sure it's us that has to find the funds or if it's the food pantry that has to find the funds. But it seems to me however we figure it out, we've got to determine whether this is even a viable location to begin with, because all this other stuff we're talking about operating costs and all that kind of stuff is rendered moot if it's not a viable site. So is there an easy way for us to figure out if this is even a viable site?
Yeah, it sounds like the engineer needs to sit down with the building commissioner and our engineering team and actually look at it and do the calculations and see if it works, right? That's what he said.
Can we do that without spending a lot of money?
Depends on if the town would like to use the person that they hired, or if you want me to go out and hire someone to work with Carl separately. And I don't know the cost of something associated with that. I'm sure Carl could find that out for me if we request it.
Do we even need to hire somebody, or can we, with our own departmental resources, look at what is being proposed and...
I'll speak, I'm not going to put words in Carl's mouth, because he's got, we have East Street going right now, we have the high school paving project going right now. I know that the three engineers of his department is really stretched out thin. I'm not as comfortable saying, yes, we could definitely do it in-house at this time. If it was a different time of year, yeah, depending on workload and everything, but I'd like to reserve until I have the call on that,
Fair.
until I have a chance to talk to
Fair enough.
DPW director and town engineer.
Fair enough.
All right. Good.
Yeah, and I don't want to take away from the focus on this particular parcel, because I think that's important, and all your questions are very important. But I would like to just really quick zoom out and look at the whole town, because I'm not sure, and you might have an answer, but maybe the board does, but, has some thoughts, but why 1385 Washington Street is the property that we're targeting. And there might be a good answer, but I just want to be clear about, like, the town relinquishing and disposing and selling off pieces of land for a good cause, of course, but we want to make sure we do that in the right way, because we don't just have a lot of extra land kicking around. If you talk to the school department, they might need to build a new preschool someday, and if you talk to DPW, and again, on a long enough timeline, they might need 30 years from now, they might need to expand more garages, and that's DPW land currently. If you talk to the fire department, they're looking to build a site, and we've commissioned a study to examine all the land in town. So again, this isn't a question for you, Bill, but it's more just a question to throw up in the air and make sure I understand why this piece of land, and have we looked at all the land that's in Walpole, and have we identified land that I guess one would consider to be excess, that we do not need and we don't anticipate needing in the decades and maybe even centuries to come, because it's hard to, if we want to build a new high school, it's hard to acquire land to do that. We don't need to do that anytime soon, but again, I want to have a really long outlook on this question. I know you came and you asked us about the Stone Street lot a couple years back, and that didn't work out. Some of the neighbors, were hesitant about that, and so we and you backed off that. And so now we're at 1385 Washington, so I just want to understand why this piece of land, and make sure, again, I know we did examine, we came up with the Kingsbury lot, and we came up with the Old East Walpole Library and maybe even the old town hall at one point as excess land. We sold off 2 of those properties. And this third one, again, for a good cause, I just want to understand why here, and does it meet with our long-term needs in Walpole? These are questions you don't have to answer, but I would like to understand that.
I'd
in the
like
long
to
run.
have the opportunity to address it.
Of course, yeah.
I think that's a decision of the board. So, I mean, you're playing Solomon on this. Is it, you have to weigh one against the other.
Mm-hmm.
What are the needs of the town? Do we need a pantry, or do we need expansion for the DPW? We need both, probably.
Sure.
But so you're going to have to make the decision. I'm not here to try to sell you on something. This is, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Just the
Right.
consequences.
So
are
Bill,
severe.
why don't we move, if you're good with Zone 3 and the zoning, and I think we've covered it, maybe we could move to number 4.
Okay.
If you're ready.
If you give me 1 minute to answer Glenn.
Sure.
So we went to Stone Street, and an elected official put on the Walpole site some misinformation. And if you remember, it was 3 days before the meeting, and a bunch of people came in here, and they were up in arms. They were abutters, because the person stated it was part of the Blackburn Memorial Park. It's not. They said it was going to interrupt the Bay Circuit Trail. It was not. They said it was wetlands. It was not. So the board at the time said, listen, let's get away from this, because there's a lot of pushback. If we can't find you another spot, we'll go back here. So that's still an option, I believe, the Stone Street site. Okay. Number 4 is concerned with locating the proposed building in the town's Aquifer Protection District. Again, we would appreciate an opportunity in the right setting to discuss this, as we are unaware of any legal restrictions. The proposed site is in Zone 2. Zone 2 is a large area. According to the DEA Source Water Assessment and Protection Report for the town of Walpole, there are many existing sites within Zone 2 that pose a higher environmental risk than a Pantry, as stated, and our engineer concurs in that. Any questions with Zone 2?
I think we're good there. Okay. Number 5.
Okay. Number 5, there appears to be concern that the proposed new facility is going to function as a regional distribution site for the Greater Boston Food Bank and other charitable organizations. We partnered with Greater Boston Food Bank in 2018. In the 7 years through their enabling program, which is rescued food, and direct food distributions to us, they have provided us with 3.78 million pounds of food and essential non-food items. That equates to $4.9 million in value. That's all free. That's how we feed Walpole. In addition, they have either directly or indirectly supported us with more than $500,000 in grants. These grants were received because our distribution is not limited to Walpole alone. Outside of our partnership with GBFB, we have a donor organization, Ministry Provisions, that provides weekly distributions directly from the bakery, baked goods, snacks, and corporate donations, collectively with a retail value of approximately $400,000 per year. We would not have had a relationship with this particular donor if we were not introduced by Project Just Because in Hopkinton, a former recipient of our shared distribution site outreach. We appreciate the support of Greater Boston Food Bank. We look at Greater Boston Food Bank as a trusted, appreciated, necessary partner, not a concern. So whether you call it a regional distribution site, a shared distribution site, a Walpole Community Food Pantry, one thing is clear: by working with Greater Boston Food Bank and other agencies outside of Walpole, we are able to do much more for Walpole residents. Any questions on that?
So wrapping up, any questions or further comments from the board? No? Okay. So, we've identified, and so thank you, Bill, for putting together, these numbered items. There's a very organized way to go through it. I think we have some specific pieces of information that need to be resolved, specifically 2, okay? The first being the question of the A&R, whether it's viable. And so that is in the town's court to talk with our internal staff to see what we were able to do there and maybe interface with your engineer to figure out the next steps there.
So you want us to wait for you to get back to us on that?
So that's one outcome of this meeting, right? Is for the town to do that. Outcome number 2 is for the food pantry to put together an operating budget or a business plan, and I think Jim O'Neill outlined it pretty succinctly, so I won't repeat everything he said. And obviously that's reasonable on its face, but I think when we look forward here, and without getting too far ahead of ourselves, if this was to go to town meeting, RTMs would ask the same exact questions, right? They would want to know how viable it is. They would want to know dollars and cents. For anybody, I see some RTMs in the crowd here, it gets down to brass tacks. So regardless of, how it ends up here at the select board, that's going to be information that's going to be needed at town meeting.
Right.
Hey,
So-
Ben, can I make a quick comment?
Absolutely.
So I would suggest don't make anything just for our board. Sort of think of it as a chance to build a 5 or 10 year operating model that sort of shows, where everything plunks in, that you could then operate the food pantry on. And you've probably got some sort of a model already, but, give us sort of a beefed up version of a model that you have that, and again, we could look at it and really understand it, but as Ben said, town meeting is going to want to look at the same numbers.
I think this has to go to the finance board too, doesn't it?
Yep, the finance committee will want
So
the
they're
same
going to want to
same
know. They're
information.
going to
Sure.
want this
Yep.
information.
Yep.
So we can provide that.
Yep. All right, so those are the 2 outcomes, unless the board has additional requests or needs. I think those are the 2 outcomes, one in our court, Bill, one in yours.
Yep.
And so certainly we'll reach out then about establishing the A&R. And as Jim said again, this may be moot, right, if we find that it's not possible given all the permutations of the zoning.
Do you have 2 or 3 minutes for a closing statement?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
of course.
Securing land on Washington Street would allow us to build a purpose-built facility that meets our operational needs and restores long-term stability. It would allow us to serve more efficiently provide a safer and more welcoming environment, and create a resilient food system that can withstand economic downturns, disasters, and future demand. After 5 years of thoughtful conversations with town officials, we believe that the land on Washington Street represents the best possible option for the town, for the pantry, and for the hundreds of families that rely on us. We understand and respect the responsibility you have in safeguarding town assets. Because our request involves town-owned land, we are committed to including and binding protections to ensure the property remains dedicated to community use and never deviates from its intended mission. We are prepared to provide proof of sufficient funding, including all costs related to the permitting process, before there is a transfer of ownership. In conclusion, we appreciate any moral support we receive from our clients, our citizens, and our select board. The thank yous, God bless yous, and I don't know what I'd do without yous we receive from our clients make the cold days of winter a little warmer and the warm days of winter a little colder. We appreciate our clients' kind words. When the select board members tell us that we're doing God's work, that helps. We appreciate it. At this time, we need more from the select board. We need substantive support. The pantry is on an unsustainable financial path. We need land for a new pantry. You, not our clients, are in a position to effect a very positive outcome for our town and its residents for years to come. Walpole without a food pantry would create significant hardship for many of our community. Please take thoughtful and prayerful consideration of our request. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Bill, thank you. Aoife, what are do you know our meeting dates in August? We have 1 or 2?
The 9th, I think it is, right?
So-
Sorry, no, the 5th and the 19th.
So the 5th and the 19th of August are our next 2 meetings. And so, you know, we've been at this for a while, and I think we've zeroed it down, right? I think we're narrowing down on a ability to make a decision here and move forward with some of these items. The goal would be for you all to have this operating budget by the second meeting in August, which was the 19th, I'm sorry?
That's the night that the warrant closes too.
That's
so.
the night, well, yeah, we can talk about fall town meeting separately. But thank you, Aoife. So at the latest, that date, the 19th.
Okay.
And we'll strive to have our coordination worked out by then as well. So then we can come back and be able to speak
Great.
without it going to September or whenever.
We understand this is the first step,
Yeah.
and you know, if you approve this, then it goes to town meeting. And if town meeting votes it down, I know we have to get, I think it's 60-70%.
Yeah,
You know, we would like that, but if the
Yeah.
town doesn't think we should get it,
yeah,
that's okay,
right.
you know?
All right, well,
Okay.
we'll be back here again in August, hopefully with some
Great.
answers.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, being that the time has passed 6:20, are there any individuals here for open forum? Does not appear so. I would hear a motion on the consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good evening. Again, my name is Joe Sawyer. I'm a resident of Walpole, lifelong. I'm a parishioner at Blessed Sacrament, the Deputy Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus Council, and a volunteer for approximately 8 years of the food pantry. And I've had the privilege of seeing firsthand the lives that have been touched by the work that they do. You know, to see a family struggling, loss of work, having a hard time getting by, or a young mother with 2 children, or an old couple that are just trying to make ends meet, and to see the, you know, the relief on them when they come in and they're able to pick up proteins to put on the table, fruits and vegetables, or a young child seeing a package of cookies in there that they can enjoy. It would break my heart if we don't have this here in Walpole. And I've seen, you know, so much, and I'm so proud of the people that volunteer their time. It's incredibly important, and you know, I've seen Walpole grow so much over the last 40 years. I mean, we have a new police department, a new fire department, a new library, a new senior center. This is an awesome town to live in. You know, it's beautiful here. To not have a food pantry to support the people that are food insecure, I mean, there's nothing worse than, a child going to bed hungry, or an old couple, somebody going in the hospital because of, they don't have food to eat, or they're dehydrated. It would be heartbreaking. The master plan goals for the town of Walpole, number 10 says, invest in resources and services to protect the health and well-being of Walpole residents, especially the town's most vulnerable people. That's the food pantry, 100%. It ought to, be restated, invest in our food pantry. We're supposed to help those who are less fortunate. And for the grace of God, there go I. And, I just think if something is not done, then at some point, the Walpole Food Pantry will cease to exist. And that would be terrible. So I appreciate your time. I hope you give this strong consideration, and I hope that we're able to come up with a solution that will, provide a food pantry for this town, because they deserve it. The people deserve it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, we have one more.
One more. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Barbara Gilmeister. I live in Rentham. I am the co-founder and executive director of Gilly's House, which is a nonprofit sober recovery house for men in Rentham. We have 21 men living there. And I wanted to just kind of zoom out to give you an idea of the breadth of what the food pantry has done outside of Walpole. And, it's really a regional service, as we are a regional service. And we have had a nice 7-year relationship with the food pantry. We get food from them, and many of our residents, actually, over the years, we've had over 250 residents there, have come from Walpole as well. And so we do get food from them, and we also, any food that we have that's extra, we also move forward to other places. So we make to a church in Attleboro, we give to people in the area, some seniors who we know can't afford to buy enough food for themselves, or families who are unemployed, or, so we do our bit there. We also do deliveries for the food pantry to the Walpole Senior Housing. So it is a very important, just to give you a different perspective on what the food pantry does, and I hope that you'll continue to support this amazing service. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I would just say, these the testimonials and kind of feedback that we're getting here, I know Bill had said maybe we could do a better job of advertising the food pantry. I mean, this is incredibly helpful information, right, and incredibly moving, and certainly, as you've known through the years, you have a lot of supporters up here on the board. And hopefully we can work through some of these technical and engineering issues, and at the end of that, it results in us being able to consider the property, on its merits and how we want to move that going forward, and the most, as we said, effective, efficient, and feasible way to present that to town meeting. Because instead of 5 people, it's, over 100 people that have to make that decision. So this information, getting the word out, and that sort of advertisement is so helpful. So thank you. Okay, anybody else?
And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, so.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come for the early part and think they have to stay the whole time. You don't have to stay, so.
Well, you thought they were coming for the early part. Okay, hear a motion, Glenn, for the consent
Make a
agenda,
motion to
please.
approve the consent items as listed on July 15th agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500 approved. Minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of June 17th, 2025 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500 approved. And Jim?
Sure, just a couple items here. Night before the 4th, fireworks went off this year. We were closely monitoring the weather. You may have noticed if you're out there, we moved it up by about 30 minutes, right around 9 o'clock once the sun went down, just because we were so concerned about what was hit us really, really close, but we narrowly avoided it. I know southern part of the state did not, but it worked out. We were able to get them off. I'd like to recognize the Walpole Fire Department and the Rec Department for all their hard work on this thing. Every year, everybody comes together on this and gets it done one way or another, so I was pleased to see that. Walpole Public Safety, as you know, if you've been following anything in the Facebook pages or the police and fire radio frequencies, it's been a very busy few weeks for the departments between some of the fires and some of the really difficult crashes we've had in town in random locations. The firefighters and police officers in town have done a great job, as have the chiefs and the deputy chiefs, the lieutenants, the captains. I just want to recognize them for their hard work. Just this past week alone, we had 2 really tough situations that I could think of off the top of my head, and the departments really get stressed under those, but they come through and work it out, so good job to them. Walpole Coop Clock, we're going forward with that, as I mentioned at your last meeting. The cost of the clock came in about $8,000 higher than expected, but no surprise, the Walpole Coops come through and said, no problem, they like how it looks, and they also want to contribute about $6,000 towards the stonework around the base of the clock. Anderson Electric's come forward and said we'll donate the time and materials needed to wire that thing up, so it's getting done. It'll probably, hoping we can get it done this fall before the winter sets in, but Donna over the Coop just notified me this afternoon that they went forward and authorized an additional $16,000 to be kicked in for that, on top of the, I think it was 25, their initial contribution, so as always, thank you to the Walpole Coop and Anderson Electric, so on that one. Fall town meeting, Jody's closing out the books. Today is July 15th, which is her last day to go around and clean up all the old purchase orders and everything else. I know she's been running around doing some hard work on that. I expect she'll be closing out the free cash and sewer and water retained earnings over the next few weeks before she submits it to the state. Capital requests were submitted. I continue to work my way through those. Obviously, I can't finalize anything until free cash is certified, and I have a set figure as to what we can work with. I have a general idea at this point, but it keeps changing every week as the purchase orders get dwindled down. And Aoife and I are continuing to prepare the warrant for the various articles that need to be considered. I saw Pat Duchesne's out here. He's working with the zoning bylaw subcommittee. I think he's going to have about 3 articles to submit. Three-ish. We're keeping a close eye on that. So, yeah, we're busy here, but everybody's working through some summer vacations, which is great, and the weather continues to cooperate. So.
All right, and we're anticipating closing the warrant on August 19th.
Yes.
Great. Any questions or comments for Jim? Nope. All right, being none, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.